It's the 3rd of February, 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Meetings continue over the weekend on into today as some take action for lack of payment promised by the Trump operative. The financial system operations are in full swing on our part as we tear down the old to make way for the new. Marduke used to call the financial system his greatest invention. Today, we will tell you why. And tariffs and other policies of the Trump administration are causing quite a rift worldwide. Well, everyone, it's the 3rd of February and Monday. Been a busy weekend over here. Lots of fun, somewhat, I guess you would say. Just on a side note, we'll do a little bit of regular news. Apparently, Phil, our faithful groundhog here in the United States, has seen his shadow, which allegedly means we're going to have, I think it's 6 more weeks of winter. I don't know where that winter is, but here in Colorado, it's been in around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which I've never seen since I've been here, and I've been here for quite a while, so that's really interesting. Okay, things going on in regular news that are causing people to, let's just say there's a lot of upheaval. Okay, so first, let's talk about Mr. Elon Musk, our little demon friend, or not friend, has been really upset. He's been upset because he invested a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money, into the Trump operative administration. And he has had paid for a lot of things during the campaign, a lot of the rallies, I mean, you name it. He actually even paid for a lot of their operations that were going on behind the scenes. And yeah, he got a position within the Treasury. But apparently what he's gotten is not enough. He is very upset. This is what's going on behind the scenes. He's very upset that he has not gotten a return on his investment. He's also very upset because he's calling the operatives incompetent. He is basically telling everybody that they cannot get the job done. He needs access to the Treasury's payment systems so he can get the job done. This has to do with installing crypto and a number of other things that he'd like to do so he can create a payment system, create a worldwide crypto financial system. This is part of the reason why Trump is now announcing he's the crypto president. But, you know, that didn't really work out too well over the weekend. They did try to install blockchain and crypto into the Treasury Department. It lasted 1 minute and 41 seconds. Again, you know, crypto and blockchain are not going to run a financial system. Heck, it couldn't even run any kind of government system. So that didn't last long, which made him even more angry. So he's quite an unhappy fellow at this moment in time. And it turns out that the access that Trump administration or Trump operatives gave to him didn't actually work. Those key codes didn't actually function. Those back doors, that NSA data that was given to him didn't actually function. Probably because the Treasury's payment system is not the Treasury's payment system. So, oh yeah, he's been calling and calling and calling, and nobody's taking his calls at the moment, which is making him more and more angry. Well, there has been some meetings, but nothing private, which is what he's expecting because of his lofty contributions. Next thing that's making everybody really upset, tariffs. Tariffs have now been implemented in Canada, against Canada. Also, they are implementing tariffs against Mexico. There was apparently a conversation that took place between Mexico and the Trump operatives administration. And the Mexican tariffs have been postponed for about a month. But as far as Canadians are concerned, they're all pretty upset. They've started taking American goods off of their shelves. They are definitely protesting. And I did talk to some of our Canadian field messengers this weekend on Sunday. Thank you so much for attending the meeting. And they were talking about their experiences. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes there in Canada. Canada at one point in time, most recently, it was proposed that Canada was going to become a state, according to Trump. And apparently they decided to make them angry. So, maybe put them in a bad position so that they would become a state. It's kind of operatives. They're not exactly very good at strategy in any way, shape, or form. Also, another thing that's making people very upset is we have exited U.S. aid. U.S. aid is also known as USCI aid to most countries, and God knows what they're sending. But there are a lot of people who believe U.S. aid is actually aid to people in foreign countries, and there's a lot of protesting going on regarding walking away from U.S. aid. Next, that's probably because we have no money. Apparently, we also are no longer going to have a Department of Education. Not to say that I disagree with the fact that our education system in the United States is definitely dysfunctional. I do agree with the fact that it's dysfunctional, but to wipe it out, that's a whole nother story, because this is going to have a long-term effect on our public school system here in the United States. And by long-term effect, I mean there is a lot of federal funding that used to get filtered down to the states, cities, and towns that would come from the federal government in order to fund educational programs. So instead of revising or revamping programs, they just decided it was a great idea to wipe it out. I understand about the policies. I understand people's feelings about the Department of Education. But when it comes to teachers' salaries, retirement plans, and a lot of other things that a lot of people depend on, it doesn't look like the U.S. government is allegedly going to be there for that anymore. Also, there are a lot of student lending and grants that come through for secondary education, college education, university, depending on where you are, that is going to be affected by this decision. So, there he goes, just taking more humanitarian programs that the federal government runs away from American citizens and foreigners as well, because there are a lot of programs that help foreigners come to school or come here for education, should they so choose to do that. So there's a lot of aid programs that'll probably be cut out as well regarding that. So just one wise decision after one wise decision. And speaking of wise decisions, we have $1 billion in weapons going to Israel. That's great. Guess we know where his alliances are and who's been funding his campaign. So anyway, all of this in such a short period of time. The saga still continues with the issues with deporting people who live in the United States and have lived here for a long time in some cases. Instead of trying to make the citizenship program easier. If there was anything that would help these people, as long as they're not, criminals in their current country, they're not, committing crimes, running drugs, crazy things like that, that should all be found out before they're allowed access into the country anyway. Coming illegally over the border is because it is so difficult to become a United States citizen, meaning Well, I'll tell you a quick little story. There's a good friend of mine whose husband is from another country, a Latin American country, and they got married there in that country. And then it was time, obviously, for her to come back to the States, at least for a little while. She goes back and forth, and obviously bringing her husband with her. It took years and thousands of dollars and that's without attorney fees, to get him into the country. About 3 years later and thousands of dollars spent, he eventually got a green card. So that's kind of where that is at. And they've been married over 10 years now. So it's complicated, especially if English is not your first language. It's very expensive, of course, unless you're a CIA asset, in which case it's very easy to get into this country, or you are a scientist, or you are a child or a young adult, I should say, that has proven to have certain skills that would be valuable in their mind to the United States. Then, of course, you can get all kinds of grants and loans. Oh, wait, no, you can't, because we don't have a Department of Education anymore. But you used to be able to get all kinds of grants to come and go to school in the States and hopefully gain employment in the United States. But, we're wiping that off the table too, because these people aren't that bright. They're Duck Dynasty after all, aren't they? So, speaking of Duck Dynasty, oh dear, let's talk about what they've been up to over the weekend. So meetings were postponed on Friday. They were to resume around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. And I told you I had a few tricks up my sleeve, and I've been definitely playing a lot of cards over the weekend too. So they finally get to this meeting on Saturday. They weren't going to go, and they're talking about all these things that they're going to do and all these things they're going to pay for. This is how the meeting starts. Meanwhile, you have a whole lot of countries and militaries from around the world, along with a lot of operatives on the phone that they owe a lot of money to and have made a lot of promises to. So they're listening to this dog and pony show on Saturday morning, and they're talking about the golden age AI, and it's going to pay for everything. And, there's some operatives on the call that kind of stopped them a little bit and said, what golden age AI? And they were like, well, the golden age AI, it runs everything, all that kind of thing. And they said, well, why did you rename the golden age AI Kimberly A. Gogan, along with this other language we've never seen before? The other language, obviously, is a light language. It's a language that talks about the real backbone, which is source of the golden age AI. So my name is on there. They said, well, if she doesn't control it, why did you rename it in her name? They just kind of tried to breeze over it and continue to talk about all their lofty goals and all the things they were going to do. And at the end of the day, they just said, well, we need until, 4 o'clock this afternoon. Get on the phone at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time-ish, if I recall. And basically that was the shortest meeting in history. It was, well, we need more time. Things have come up and we need to make an assessment. There was a little bit of a frientervention. Let's call it a frientervention that was going on between some of the folks that were on the phone and the operatives. They said, look, it's time to hang it up. You need to go talk to her. Let's figure out what we're going to do. Let's try to make a deal. And so they said they were going to do an assessment. They weren't quite finished with their assessment, apparently. So, they scheduled calls for a little later, and, they're still working on it. So they bought themselves some time in these meetings until Monday, today. So today's meeting, and there's been some other things that have been going on too. Today's meeting was strange. Everybody gets on the phone, and they did not come to the phone. There were other people that were fronting for them. I think they were global headquarters, some kind of military folks here in the States not the Pentagon, not on that level, a little bit higher than that. And they told everybody that they have some really bad news. They told everybody that Trump is very ill and he may not make it much longer. By not much longer, they mean days, according to the medical doctors, and they're doing everything they can, but it's looking pretty grim. He's very ill, and they are looking to schedule a funeral sometime around the end of April, beginning of May. Now, they never do anything they say they're going to do, but this was basically just to get everybody to shut up because everybody was screaming at them. Where's my cash? Where's the money? What have you done? What's happening? And keep in mind that some of these operatives that are on the phone are folks with the NSA. They are folks with, DNI and that kind of thing, or they are highly trained, and some of them have a lot of computer skills or have friends that do, and they are recognizing there is constant changes that have been taking place over the weekend, and they know that they're never going to get anywhere at this point. The crypto thing didn't work out with Elon Musk. They know about that. You always talk on the right phones. Remember that. So that's kind of where they're at behind the scenes. Sort of, kind of. So after the failure on Saturday, there have been some interesting people that have also reared their head. Apparently, they have also utilized the services of the Raymond Reddingtons of the world. Now, if you recall, I've talked about this, and I call them the Raymond Reddingtons because I don't really want to talk about these people by name. It's probably not the right thing to do. And they are, I say Raymond Reddington from the television series called Blacklist. And Raymond Reddingtons are not your typical, they're not operatives. They don't work for anyone, yet they work with everyone. They are master strategists when it comes to global affairs. They are very high-level fixers, so you can hire these people to get you into countries. You can hire them to get political influence in places. You can hire them to get you out of places should you end up stuck in a place you don't want to be. They are very expensive, and they are masters, and they don't fail. They are, don't get me wrong, they have their hand in all kinds of businesses, both above board and not above board. And there's probably about, at this moment in time, best I can tell, there's about 12 of them in the world. So they're very rare. They're not all American by any means. There are some Asian folks in there. I know that there's some Middle Eastern folks within the group I'm talking about. And there's also some Eastern Europeans, and I think there's a British guy too. They are predominantly been around for a long time. It's what you would want to call an exclusive status that is earned. They are many years doing this for, before they gain this kind of status, lots of favors later, lots of building their reputation, let's just say. And I'm pretty sure, I'm definitely sure, in a couple of these cases, these people did favors for the Trump administration. Apparently, as well, Trump operatives hired them to do a few things for them with the promise of payment later, of course. They don't ever pay now, they pay later, but favors are also a currency in that world. So they are due a lot of favors. And unfortunately, thus far, Trump operatives have failed to perform. That's one. Number two, their ego is so big and their mouth run amok, and they are in a little bit of hot water with these folks right now. So, interesting things are taking place around the world because they are globally connected. So the Raymond Reddingtons that are very angry right now have been making some phone calls and trying to figure out what is wrong with these people. They appear, this is what they're talking about behind the scenes, they appear to be clinically insane. To not uphold a deal with these type of folks, you need to uphold your end of the bargain, whatever it is. It could be a favor. It doesn't necessarily mean money. And they are blowing it off like it never happened, telling all kinds of stories and lies. And these people are quite sick of it at this point. So they've started to call their network. This is what appears to be happening. So there's some networking that's going on behind the scenes, and some of those network folk are other people that have worked in the SSP. Some of those network folk are other people that have worked in DARPA, other operatives around the world that they have hired many times before. And one of the things that they asked me, at least indirectly, because we have mutual contacts, over the weekend was, do these people have a walk-in? Is there something in there? So I have looked and looked and looked, and there was some kind of a connection to something in their brain where, like, let's just say everybody's neurons flow to the left, let's just say. It's obviously much more intricate than that. And there's go to the right. It's abnormal brain function. And not just from a kind of making fun of them standpoint. It was part of the Super Soldier program, but the Super Soldier program, as you know it on the internet, for secret space program operatives is very different. There are AIs that are created to control them in many different ways. It also affords them certain skills. It would also afford them highly unusual medical treatments, should that become necessary. I know that some of them have non-human body parts that are kind of make them like the $6 million man or Bionic Man or something, if you remember that way back in the day. And, they are altered to the point where they can bypass normal brain limits. What I mean by that is even you as a person, the average human uses somewhere around 10 to 15% of their brain. The reason why you only use 10 to 15% on average as humans of your brain is because that had a limiter on it. They want to be able to still have to function. You have to breathe, walk around, do a job, work for them, slave system, the whole thing. But they don't want you to function to such a degree that you could make the mind, body, and soul connection. And they definitely don't want you gaining any kind of wisdom from source or anything like that. So those limiters are fading away slowly but surely. And there's backup systems upon backup systems upon backup systems, where now, as an average everyday human, you'll probably notice, that brain power, so to speak, increasing. So not only is there wisdom that comes in with that, there is also a limiter in your brain that tells you that your body is going to break if you use any more than 10 to maybe 20% of your strength. This is where the superhuman stories come from, like women that lift cars off babies. They're small women and then they all of a sudden can lift a car because your fight or flight in your amygdala is the part of your brain that governs that. Your fight or flight also will overcome that hurdle at sometimes. And that is why they can do the things they can do. Well, you as humans can do a lot of those things too. You can heal yourself. You can do all kinds of things with no limiters. And this is where we're going. As far as the secret space program, folks, this was a push and a pull. So they wanted them to have resourcefulness. They wanted them to have the ability to operate in unusual circumstances. They also wanted them to have what we would call superhuman strength. These were all things that they would try to do. And that's the reason why their brain functions differently than everyone else. But there's a caveat here when it came to the secret space program. Most of their consciousness transfers were coming from the dark side. Not most, all of them, really. So they did have the ability to see more than the average person did, before all of these veils have started lifting for all of us. But there is, they had some abilities to see things in people that, people that weren't people, have conversations with people that weren't people, maybe even a little bit of telepathic skills, some of them, if that was their job. They were limited to what they could do because it was predominantly dark. So as the old subsets of AIs go away and lose function, this is actually causing them to short circuit. It's part of the reason why they're so crazy. And this was reconfirmed by folks like DARPA and other folks in the secret space program who have technologies still to do what humans do naturally. I mean, I'm sure all of you have met people that you just think aren't quite right. Most of you are quite awake and aware of your surroundings, and you can kind of notice some strange, maybe their body doesn't move quite right, that type of thing. Well, and that's becoming, more and more evident as we go into 2025 here. For these folks, they use a technology to do it. So they kind of, notice there's nothing in there. They don't have a walk-in or anything like that, or they're not vril infected, or, which is what they kind of expected to see. So conversations were had, and I'm like, okay, here's where you got to look. Here's what you got to look at, and then you've got to try to figure out what's connected to their head. So we kind of traced it back on our end of it and made sure that that was disconnected even further, which has driven them even crazier over the last several days. The next thing they decided to do, because part of that conversation was we get a lot of non-humans walking around. Not a lot, but you do have some, where there's something in there. Elon Musk being one of those people. There's something in there. That's not a human soul. That's not a body that is driven by a human being anymore. It has completely taken over that being, and which is why you see him do all these weird things, weird costumes, wear weird symbols and black magic and all the kind of crazy stuff the guy does. But all of his knowledge comes from the thing that's in there. And there are a few other people that still have things in there. And if they are dark things with this technology, they can tell. So they've apparently, let's call him Mr. Reddington et al., decided to hunt these people down like dogs. They're some of the Trump operatives that made promises to the Raymond Reddington character were taken into custody, let's just say, to sit down and have some chats. Some of them made it out. Some of them are still there. This is all just developing. I guess it started to develop around 11 a.m. my time on Sunday. So this is still something that is in progress. As far as the others that are walking around the planet that might not be people anymore, they started eliminating those people, and they paid people to do it because they have money. They make a lot of money in their business, and they have a lot of favors as well, and a lot of markers and other things that allows them to pick up the phone and run elaborate operations worldwide. So this is what they've been up to. There's been some talk about trying to figure out how to fix this because, in the show, The Blacklist, if you've never seen it, the Raymond Reddingtons of the world they do everything for themselves. But in the show, he works with the FBI. They eliminate some of these blacklisters, meaning highly dangerous criminals that are on the FBI's most wanted list in the show. And most of the time he does it because these people are getting in the way of his business, or they maybe violated a contract or something like that. And he always comes out on top. Maybe he wants to steal some of their business, some of their contacts or something like that. So this continues on, through most of the seasons, but that's it in brief. And right now, everything that they said they were going to do, they have not done. In fact, they've done the opposite in a lot of cases. They are definitely clinically insane, according to the Redmond Group and some of the operatives that work with the Redmond Group, let's just call them. And they're not taking too kindly to what's going on there right now. So you might see some changes long before April or May. In that realm. They're either going to get them under control or they will probably disappear at this point. They're extremely frustrated, as is the rest of the world, with a lot of the crazy, crazy choices that are being made. So there is that. That's kind of where that sits at the moment. A lot of it's in progress, and it's not a coordinated operation with us at this point. So I can't really say what their next move is at this moment, nor would I if I, online at this moment. So, but I will say it did cause a little bit of a problem. You see, if you are going to take out a person with something in there, you have to know how to properly kill said person. What I mean by that is if you don't do it the right way, and you look at them like they're regular people, you will probably end up releasing whatever is in there out into the world. So if you've had some crazy dreams, seen some crazy things over the weekend, that is why. So all of a sudden I'm looking, and I'm like, what is going on out there? I'm like, I've got alarms going off. I've got, I've not seen, I'm like, did someone open a portal somewhere? Did they find a pocket of dormant, aliens or demons or something? I'm like, what is this? So it took me a while to figure out what was going on. It doesn't take long to clean up. We're still running scans as far as cleanup operations because I'm guessing they're still going to continue. And the understanding of, how to kill an alien 101 is not the same as how to kill a human. So hopefully those people that are doing this out there might hear this and just be careful. There are people out there I know there's people around here locally that know how to do it too. So don't take my word for it. Maybe phone a friend, because I don't want anybody to get harmed either. Because what they'll do is they've got about 72 hours to find another host. The being has to have a specific type of DNA, meaning able to host that large of an energy, depending on what level uh, of the lower astral they hailed from at one point in time. So if it's like a level 8 or 9 or density 8 or density 9 being, you got to have some serious vessel power, so to speak, to hold that, or they'll kill the host. And they know that too. So they're always looking for those beings. Now, that being doesn't necessarily have to be real dark either. It could be someone who's real light, where they'll try to jump in also. So just be aware of that. If you've experienced some strange things, watch closely. The other thing they'll try to do is influence people. They must have read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because they can actually influence you and convince you, like, you need power, you need this, you need that. So, if you're having strange visions, strange dreams, that's probably why. So I don't know how long this is going on, and I don't know how many of them are out there. I know that if the ones that are free, so to speak, or loose, get picked up pretty quickly, meaning they're out there. They're out there without a host, so to speak. So we are continuing to constantly monitor for and eliminate anything we see out there. Now, things get kind of quiet on that front if they happen to find a host during daylight hours. Usually they will escape their host at night. They'll look for a place to hunker down during the day, even if it is not completely hospitable to their kind, so to speak. So there's a lot of hunting that goes on. I know last night for sure, and also will tonight. So just to make sure that, if they're going to continue this, we've got to clean up the mess on the other end. Okay, more news. So we are moving into that full currency system. We are planning on doing this without governments, without help, because we haven't found anybody who actually wants to help. We've found a lot of people that would like to access our systems. There was a lot of hacking going on this weekend by the NSA, SSP, and it's been full on. Also, the SSP is looking for anything that they can connect their head to. Well, maybe they miss their voices in their head, I guess. Multiple personalities or whatever you call it. As we do move through this, there are a few other things I wanted to make mention of, because this might make more sense to you. There's a lot of people out there that always talk about the gold standard, and I've talked about it many times, and I've done a lot of whiteboarding sessions for you regarding a gold standard versus currency and that type of thing. But Marduke being a master human manipulator, we need to control the humans, as he would say, at the same time, not let them function as full celestials, because we need that. We need them to conduct that source energy, in essence, and consciousness, and all the things that source is, the all that is. We need them to conduct that, but we also need to take it. That's kind of their modus operandi. And something interesting, as we've been cleaning up the financial system and moving forward into levels where we can protect and access your personal accounts and business accounts, so to do projects without interference, another mechanism came to light that I wanted to share with you because I found it fairly interesting. So, depending on how old you are or where in the world you live, You might have noticed a change in your food back in the 1970s. Might have started in the 60s, but it really kind of ramped up in the 70s. So if you lived, in a rural area, or even, getting produce and whatnot from the grocery store, food used to taste different. Now, with the advent of GMOs and, processing and radiating food and all those types of things that they do, which is just part of the whole process. But, unfortunately, which needs to end. But you might have also noticed that even when you go to, say, a farm and you buy fresh blueberries or produce or directly from a farm that is an organic farm that probably doesn't use pesticides, that type of thing is what you would be looking for, you might have noticed a difference in the taste of that food if you have been around long enough to experience food in the early 1970s. You might have noticed on your farm that, you didn't need much of it. Maybe you needed less food even because it tasted different. So this is a byproduct of a system that happens to coordinate with the going off of the gold standard and the initiation of a global worldwide financial system. Now, those two things don't go together. They don't make any sense. But I'd say the mechanism goes like this. Let's put it that way. We've often talked a lot about how gold generates source golden energy. And source's energy, essence, consciousness, in its purest form is gold. It might seem kind of white, but it is predominantly a golden color. And that is the color of source too. That's when you are directly receiving the currency, the current of source, you'll notice it's a golden current that would come to your person. Now, this little Marduke hidden system within our financial system did not allow that to happen. So you would have seen source all your life, possibly. Some of you might have seen it differently, but most of you would have seen it as white light. We want the white light system. We want white light. Well, the same as your food is different, because plants also receive direct current of source, you're different. You've been different. Meaning it might have been easier in the 1960s and 70s if, you've been around that long and you've been awake that long, to see that golden light, to meditate and see the world in a different way, and then now it's kind of light. So let's talk about the plants and the food first. Regardless of how organic things are, and obviously these are all bonuses, don't get me wrong. You grow your vegetables, you try to hopefully hope for rain because that's the best water to water your plants. You're still not getting that same quality of produce that we used to get way back at that time. And I know that there are a lot of people that have seed banks, some negative to do negative things, some positively around the world. But unless your seeds are really old, you're still kind of all growing the same stuff. Better quality than you can get in most places. It's not radiated, and it's definitely healthier for you, and you'll taste a difference for sure. But with even plants and earth being cut off from pure golden source light, they're not getting the nutrients that they need either. You're not getting the life force. They're not getting the pure life force. Now, what Marduke had done is he had structured the financial system to go off the gold standard. Now, everybody thinks that's some president somewhere's idea, Nixon or otherwise, but it wasn't. Everybody might think it's Bretton Woods, but it wasn't. It was Marduke. So up until this point in time, we were getting at least 21% of pure gold into our bodies. And then that gold standard would then translate into the banking system as a backing of pure source energy for currencies. Interesting, isn't it? Right about the time that he was ready to launch the human sector, meaning human computer networks, the global financial system, and start making it more digital, is right about the same time that he made deals with various people on this planet that didn't care if we were on the gold standard. And of course he portrayed it as, well, you're not going to be on the gold standard. That's that shiny bars and that kind of stuff. Although that's a conductor for source too. You are going to be on the fiat system, so to speak, which if you look up what the word fiat means, it actually means with approval. It actually means something that is enforceable. So now the source light, essence, and energy, even to the minute amount that was coming into this planet that goes to you to keep you functioning, that is still saleable, but it's not as good as the pure gold, that pure source energy to power bad alien tech, let's just say. So they had to figure out a way to siphon off the golden, the pure, so the pure nutrient rich, so to speak, source life force off before it came to the human. So what you got is kind of the same thing that you're getting now as far as food is concerned. You'll notice it doesn't taste the same. You have to eat more of it in order to sustain your person. Otherwise, you're still hungry. You now take supplements and vitamins because you're not getting those things from food anymore. And this was another big step in that process back in the 70s where, it's like we have food light, so to speak. I mean, yes, we get a lot of additives and preservatives, and especially if you live in America, in your food, and this weird GMO thing, and, ways of growing fish on farms. And, it's just definitely different than what we normally would have. But that's because all your food's only getting that white light too. It's not getting that golden essence of source either anymore since they changed the financial system. Now, what's even worse is, so you're now getting nutrients of source light into your body. They now take it all from you. You're constantly chasing, I've got to pay my bills, I've got to go to work, you're constantly on the wheel, which wears you down even further because it takes even what little energy you're getting or nutrient light, and it's taking it away from you. So it's like starvation. And that is what allows for other Marduke programs to come into force as well. It makes our vessels not last as long. Therefore, it actually amplified, I shouldn't say it created it, but it amplified the incarnation program, the recycling of human souls on the planet, like a farm. It also creates shorter lifespans. We don't live as long as we used to. Before these programs started, you're seeing a lot more disease out there than we had before. You also have other medical things, jab, that are not healthy for you. They The reason for the accelerated jabs and other things that they put in your food that are not healthy for you either is also to siphon more energy, off of you. The other part to it, the reason why we have like aluminum in our deodorants and, if they're going to get it in you one way or another, these metals, it's because they still would like to control or put a meter, so to speak, on your brain power. That's the purpose behind all of these programs, not necessarily to make you a quote unquote cyborg, but they need you to be dumbed down, basically. Your IQ, depending on your diet and what you eat, a lot of processed foods, a lot of those types of things, with a lot of heavy metals in them, and what you put on your skin, what you put in your body also causes additional problems too. And sometimes, those are cheaper foods, the organic chicken or organic foods, and you don't have a farm nearby. Maybe you live in a city or can't afford it. All of these contribute to neuron firing issues, and not in the same way as the super soldier program worked, but it does allow humans to use less and less of their brain. So we are now somewhere still around the 10% mark, and if they had their way, it would be even higher. It's also the reason for chemtrails. It's the reason behind everything. And these were creations, like I said, of Marduke. If you've seen an uptick in the last 24 hours in your particular area of chemtrails, I know I have, this is the reason why. Because as I take out the Marduke systems and the systems behind the systems for siphoning off energy, this energy system is also what creates global human-computer networks and mirrors and connections. So they're seeing a lot of their functionalities, not just in the financial system going away, but they're also seeing their functionalities in military and intelligence and facial recognition and all kinds of things start to fade because there's no energy going to it from you anymore. Hopefully, once this process is complete, because it's kind of like diffusing a bomb, you don't want to, make everybody crazy. So as the process completes in Source's time, he knows the right time to start pulling the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. But as this process continues, we should start to see different crops in the near future. More nutritious food, especially if you're sourcing it from your own garden or you're sourcing it from a local organic farm. You'll notice you'll need less food in order to function, which over time will cure a lot of issues that we see in the world with obesity and other things, because your body's almost trying to protect you from that food, number one. And number two, you need a lot more of it to get the nutrients to actually nourish your body. So there are folks out there that I have met that actually add specific minerals to their soil. Also others that add herbs and other things in certain combinations, which remineralize the soil, which helps a lot in the food that you produce. So there are ways to help with that, but it's kind of like us too. We need that direct golden essence of source, to really thrive as human beings on the planet. And this is something, as the financial system changes and the Marduke aspects of the financial system change, it will also change you, and it will also change your food sources. So this is something I find really, really interesting and something I'm looking forward to seeing happen for all of you. So I'm excited about that. On the operative front, they're going to get a whole lot of light when they're used to a whole lot of dark, and their neurons are going to start having a problem because that Jason Bourne crack, as I call it, those pills that they take and injections that they got or get, are going to start spinning their head in the wrong direction. Especially the really dark ones like the Trump people and those types of folks. Those that are not involved in those programs won't see anything happen. There are ways to detoxify from it and to fix it, but I don't think ones that are that far gone, like the Trump folk or anything, they'll probably expire first. As far as the other folks that may have been in some of those programs willingly or unwillingly, well, there's ways to fix it. But it's also why you see some of them, this is like the advent of PTSD and other things too, along with drugs that they give soldiers and that kind of thing too in their food. So lots of positive changes on our side. We still have more operations to run. Let's just say counter to what they're doing right now. So I've been working on that, and there's more and more every day. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. And I know they're getting pretty frustrated with me at the moment, but that's a you issue, not a me issue. I am here to go it alone, just like you told me you wanted to. I'm going it alone on my side, and I'm not alone. We're all together in this. I thoroughly appreciate all of you and all you do, in holding the light and towing the line, so to speak. And I know a lot of you get visions too, and act upon those visions to try to help change the world. And I can tell you it's working, so don't think, well, I don't know if I'm doing it right. I mean, of course you're doing it right. It's being guided by source. So I just wanted to take a moment and say I appreciate all of you as well. So I guess you could say we're going it alone, more than anything. Just one more thing I want to mention to you. Friday, the GIA report will be live. I will do the GIA report, and then I will go into question and answers. So if you want to ask a question, you can do so in our community chat. I think that there'll be a live chat on the app as well, where you can ask your questions. So I look forward to talking to all of you again. That was kind of fun. Maybe depending on the next live, usually we're going to try to do them, around the first week of the month is our hope. We did take a poll, and everybody chose 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the live chat on Friday, not Saturday or another time. So I appreciate all your votes and you taking the time to give us your input. We value your input and making these decisions because, after all, this is for you. So this is your channel. If you're a field messenger, and you're out there, then I'm sure, more and more, we're getting a lot of good feedback. And I was telling the field messengers that on Sunday in the field messenger meeting, I had an opportunity to attend, which I rarely do, but I was excited to do that. And, this is becoming your channel more and more. You are the news. So if you want to change the face of news, that's how you do it. You kind of got to report it. And maybe join the field messenger chat and talk to others that do it. It's not as hard as you think, and people are really looking for your information more than anything. They tell you how to hold your camera, your phone. You can do it in just a few minutes, and bring to us information from your area. That could be anything from, recipes and cooking or juicing, or it can be a breaking news event in your area. It could also be something that maybe people haven't heard of, something, maybe a plant that only grows in your area and what you can use it for and how it can help certain health issues or something. But just bring it forward. We would love to hear from you. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you that do. There's tons of good feedback on all your field messenger reports. I hear from people all the time. So loving the changes in the news, loving seeing more of you and less of us, which I think is wonderful too. So just a quick moment of thanks to all of you, and I will see you on Wednesday.